So just keys to utilizing the heart rate variability. Start with your baseline. Be consistent with measuring. If you measure it in your bed, if you measure it standing up, just do it consistently. Understand what the high and low readings mean. There's times where I want those numbers to be low. We said high is desirable. There were times I want my numbers to be low, because if they're not, I didn't push myself hard enough on my hard workout. Like, I want to see that number dip after a hard track workout to show that, hey, you know what? You did a good job that day. Like, you push yourself, you're healthy, but okay, back it off. You're not ready to go hard again today, but you know that you made a good effort that time. And we even see these numbers. This is one of the things that I learned the hard way when I first started using this. I would be a little upset on race day because my heart rate variability was really low, but there's some autonomic response, like the stress and the anxiety of race day. You can have an artificially low number on race day, but still have good performance. So there are factors. It's not a perfect number. But that was one thing I was like, oh, I'm going to have a horrible race today. And I was like, I had a good race. And I was like, well, this number's crap. I'm not paying attention to this.
I could give you some more information. Because I don't know if you were using your Garmin time, but when you use a lot of these watches, they give you a recovery advisor. Or it depends. You get one at the beginning of the run and one at the end. The beginning is reevaluating. The end is what it is at the end of the run. And I've done warm-ups for a race. And the particular watch I have, which is similar, it gives you a negative 10 to a positive 10. And I get ready to run a race, and I got a negative 3. I'm like, this is not good.
Right.
But then when you start the race, it reevaluated it, and then I was a positive 3. I'm like, it took me a while to get warmed up, and it's probably just nervous for the race. And once you're in the race, it's all changed. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready to run. Yeah. But it plays head games with you when you see those numbers.
It does. Those numbers, like a lot of times, they match up pretty well with my heart rate variability. When you get going and you get running, and it's like if the heart rate variability low, I'll get like a low number with a lot of that. Mind over matter for some of that stuff. You don't want to. That's why we say don't be a slave to these numbers. Don't be like, oh, I've got a poor heart rate variability, I'm not going to run for a week. Well, yeah, you can still go for a run if it's the only day that you have to run. Just keep it low intensity. That's fine. You don't have to stop yourself from doing everything. Make sure that you're using it as part of a decision, not the only decision with that. But one of the most important things is use an accurate device.
John's got a I'm a little bit confused on the range. It would seem to me must be a range.
So
if I wake up in the morning, I've slept all night, my heart rate ought to have been low and not moving around, but you're saying it's wide, so is it the whole last day that it's looking at it? Or?
It's looking at a point in time. So you're measuring heart rate variability at the point in time. But what it really tells you is how recovered your body is. So if you're doing it first thing in the morning, and if you had a hard workout yesterday, well, a lot of muscle repair and recovery was happening overnight. So your body might still be working pretty hard. And if you see that first thing in the morning, you know you're not ready to go hard that day. Like you're saying, that was a good workout. Don't do it again today. So it really is looking at just a single point in time. And this is why, like, I measure it in the morning, but if you're an evening runner or an after work runner, typically within an hour and a half of your run is a good time to check out this variable there, just to kind of see where you're at with the day and understanding where your body's at that point in time.
Doug, another question. So you measured it soon after waking up, or the resting heart rate would be like while you're asleep. So if using that as a baseline, and we know about resting heart rate, what other factor is incorporated into that for HRV? Right.
So HRV is one of the factors that I use here, and actually good lead into the next slide. Thank you. He's not a plant. So we do see, like, it isn't the only number that I see. It is, I am looking at my resting heart rate with this. I'm looking at my stress score on Garmin. I'm looking also at my sleep quality, but a subjective questionnaire too. So to answer your question, the heart rate variability is just a measure of the distance between the intervals. It's only that score there. Is between blips on one of those EKG means, what's the distance between those? That's the number.
So literally it's like a 3-minute section of measuring, and you can sense from different spaces, and it calculates.
It calculates that based off of that.
Yeah, Doug, it's basically like if you're around 60 in the morning, as you're measuring over that minute to 3 minutes, it's going to 62 and down to, like, it's not the more variety you have of the heart rate in that small blip of time is the heart rate variability.
Yeah.
that's the space between.
The Garmin gives you a score based on the calculation of that number. So the Garmin gives you a score like, are you in the green, are you in the orange, or are you in the red? And it'll say you're low stress, you're high stress, things like that. Some of the other give you a different score that says like 10.4 or 2.4. It depends. And it's not, also, I know, because this is runners tend to be a type A group here, it's not a competition. Your heart rate variability is your own. It doesn't mean you're more fit if you have a higher heart rate variability than your buddy. It's like, I don't know why I'm not smoking this person in a race. Like, my heart rate variability is 12 and Gary's like 2. Like, I should be killing him. It's not that. It's what's your baseline, because we're all wired a little bit differently there. But it is something I even ask myself in the morning and kind of rate myself 0 to 10. Like, could I give 100% effort on a workout or a race that day? And I use that in accordance with what's my resting heart rate, what's my heart rate variability, what was my sleep like the past couple of days, and I find like I got to know it well enough. I've been doing this for about 2 years. I can tell about 2 days before I'm going to catch a cold now. Like, I can tell, like, I swear, there's no scientific evidence for this, but I swear my heart rate jumps about 6 or 7 beats, and then it stays up there for an extra day, and my heart rate variability drops, and then it's like, almost I get a sore throat like 2 days later every time. So there's things, I just think that for me, and that might not be for other people, but for me, my body is telling me something that I'm fatigued, I'm tired.
Maybe I can ask a question for the group that some of you might be thinking, is heart rate, resting heart rate, as versus, let you measure in the morning, as versus heart rate variability, is resting heart rate also valuable?
Yes, I use both as a predictor here to see where that is, and I really like to see what my resting heart rate is as well. And that's why I'm not just letting one number dictate everything. And that's what I do, like a lot about the Garmin is I don't have to stand up and check that one. That one is just monitored for me while I sleep. So I can see what my heart rate, it's got the all-day heart rate, and the optic is very good for, those types of activities. So I really like that, to be able to track and see where I'm at over time, and it plots everything in Garmin Connect, so I can see trends.
I find the resting heart rate is a great feature, because if you're training too hard, you see your resting heart rate going up.
Yeah.
If you're getting enough recovery, it will come down. And I also found, because I didn't know this myself, most people think resting heart rate is your lowest heart rate, and it's actually your heart rate when you wake up. So your heart rate may be 40, and then 2 minutes later when you wake up, it might be 45, and your resting heart rate is 45.
Right.
You could probably explain what that means more, but it's not your lowest, it's your lowest, it's what it is when you wake up.
Yeah. And I used to get pissed because I would be like, what's wrong? It's not working. Like, it shows me that it's like 38 there, but you're telling me I'm 52. So it is when your body starts to be in a wakeful state. That's where it really is, because there's some different things, like a lot happens at night. Like, that's why sleep's so important, and that's why I consider sleep with this too. If I had a not very restful night, that's a factor in whether I'm going to go hard that day or not.
Is this your chart, or is this one you found?
That's mine. Yeah.
So the newer, is it with this watch?
Mm-hmm.
So this must be an old chart, because the newer ones, and they now use actual heart rate variability for your levels, where they didn't in the past. It was all based on movement. So now you'll actually get a REM line in here too.
Oh, the REM line's below, so it's REM, deep. So this is deep, light, REM, and
Doug
wake.
doesn't sleep.
Oh, I didn't see that right here.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I don't sleep that much. I picked that night to make it seem like I do, but every other night is like 5 hours of sleep. But that's why I had to go back to August 2nd. That's the last time I got that much sleep there. So it took me a bit to go find one that made it look like I get good sleep here.
Can I ask a question about sleep? Does it matter, or do you take into account in your sleep data heavy or the deep sleep?
The deep
light?
versus the REM. Yes, I will take that in effect. Bree is like my sleep idol. Her numbers, like, she used to tease me and send me a text of like her sleep in the morning, and it'd be like she got more deep sleep than I got, like, total sleep.
Kids.
Yeah, she has no kids. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, so there's a difference.
But that would be a question for
right.
you.
Yeah.
Like,
What do you?
I actually don't move a lot. even if I'm awake. So sometimes it says I'm asleep.
It's really well. For one, they start your sleep and end your sleep based off of movement. So if you're reading a book for an hour before you go to bed, it may think you're sleeping. Yeah. So I just move my arm a little bit, just make sure it doesn't. You can change it.
You can edit it.
But But I always look at the deep sleep, and I'm like, I'm usually around 30, 40 minutes. Like I don't even know what good is.
No.
But the REM sleep, I try to see if that can be higher, and it seems like you get better rest when those numbers are higher.
I look for the amount of REM cycles that I went through a lot of times. Like I normally like to see at least 3 or 4 of them. Some of the sleep studies have shown there's certain times that your body goes through those cycles of sleep up and down, and we need to be able to experience enough of those cycles to kind of go through our different states and the benefits of sleep. Which is why most nights I try and get to bed before 10. They say most of the time the first cycle happens around 10 p.m. for some reason. But it's so the sleep, I do look at the sleep and kind of analyze that. But again, it's, there's not always literature out there for that stuff or strict guidelines. But if you look at yourself, like even when you start, like observe these things and say, wow, I had a great run today. Let me go look at my sleep from the last couple of days. Let me look at my resting heart rate. Let me look at that stress score. When I'm below this number, I do great. Or when I get 5 cycles of REM sleep, I really feel like a rock star the next day. And then you can start to be able to say, hey, does that correlate with my running performance? And that's what's helpful to me, doing little mini science experiments. Danielle.
So if you wanted, I just realized I have that HRV test on my environment. I never knew what it did before. So say I wanted to get a baseline.
Yeah.
But say I'm still training and like I'm doing intense workouts. Can you get a baseline while you're still actively training?
Yes. Yeah, you can see where you are because it is a point in time there. And, I would look to get a longer baseline. But within a week, 7 to 10 days during training, you can look at that and say, well, this is where I'm at now, but use your judgment of, well, do I feel good today? And if you don't feel good that day, or if you had a poor training day, then you might want to consider that number might be low. Yeah. Yeah, Christine?
So, Doug, would you say the most important thing isn't necessarily when you take it during the day, but that you take it consistently at that time during the day?
Yes. Yeah, it's not like it has to be before 6 a.m., so everyone needs to set their alarms for tomorrow morning. It's doing it consistently, and even if you do it consistently at a time interval before your workout, that might be as equally as important too, to say, I did it an hour and a half before my run that day. That might be helpful to say, all right, I'm in a rested state or not. Yeah. Good.
I think the app does have an alarm.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I know I use the alarm on my watch as a crap alarm. Yeah. Does it have where you can check? There you go. So, perfect.
It goes off every morning and reminds you
to check it out there. Yeah.
If you didn't hear him, Jim said for some apps there's a reminder that says, hey, check your variable heart rate now. So I mean, thankfully with technology, it's just little prods to say, you can do this now.
Yeah.
And also when to go to bed.
Yeah,
exactly.
I like the go to bed one.
Yes.
So this is an app that you can add if your watch doesn't necessarily have it, or is only certain models?
I mean, well, it's an app, and the HRV app is a separate app in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The watches most of the watches will do it, but not maybe to the level of the app telling you to check it.
To check it there.
Although technically the watches are really reading your heart rate variable all day.
Right.
But they can only read it through the wrist base when you're not moving.
Right.
So it's only reading when you're resting, like when you're sleeping or still.
There is like a stress score that you can see throughout the day, and you can look at how stressful you were. Did you have enough restful moments? And I try to not look at that because it's not always favorable. But for me, it's nice to have everything in one place a lot of times too. That's a big benefit of checking it one versus the other. That's why I keep everything. That's why I do both, because I want to really just be able to go to Garmin Connect or wherever you're going and say, all my numbers are here. I can look at that and see. Yeah. Yeah.
Does anyone use a website or an app to keep track of their workouts? Strava, Garmin Connect. Okay.
Final Surge.
Yeah.
Final Surge does import a lot of that too.
the idea with those is not to just dump data in it. What you can get out of it is tendencies, as Doug was saying, like, okay, let me see the trends of what was going on before I got injured. Let me see the trends of what was going on before I saw the peak. And if you're doing your first marathon or your first triathlon, I think what's great about those is you can go back and say, I'm ready to go. Because you look at that big window of whatever you're reviewing and you can say, this is the training block I put in. Like, this is the work I put in. So if anything, like it's a representation of all the work you've done to get you ready for the race. And so, again, like, those type of apps are, I mean, they're valuable if you use them and like take the time to use them, not just dump stuff in it. And I do, like, I tell a lot of the younger athletes, a lot of the high school and college runners, like, listen, if you go back and look at the work you did, that doubt you may fear before going to the starting line should go away. Because if you did the work, you're ready to go. And these type of apps, these type of websites, that data is there for you to reassure you. So
yeah, I can. That's a huge benefit. We have a huge advantage these days of being able to look at that stuff and having all these numbers. And there's people that can help you with the numbers too. There's running coaches that know a lot of this stuff. You know, we got a lot of great resources in the area of people that really know this stuff. So I encourage you, if you want to get interested in this stuff, like, find people that can help out. I know we got quite a few people, even some people here that do a lot of that stuff. So, you know, if you're looking for that stuff, reach out. There's plenty of resources too. And, you know, but this is part of your training. This is perfect with Mike saying, you know, looking at where you're at, and you were talking about the training effect. This is literature that supports a lot of that, where we're comparing, actually, this is acute to chronic workload ratios, where, listen, you can listen to your heart, you can do all this stuff, but if you don't have a good training plan, if you're not doing this stuff consistently, you're still going to be at risk for injury or for minimal to no gains here. And this is looking at a